the TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Welcome back to the show, all Cherries fans, and welcome to our friends from Brentford. It's great to have you with us. Now, of course, last time out against Tottenham Hotspur at the imaginatively named Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Daniel Levy must have spent a fortune on working that one out. We drew 2-2. Of course, it could have been better had it not been for some decisions that went against us. And then, of course, Kepa making two mistakes, in my honest opinion. Now, we followed that up with a home game. That home game is against Brentford, of all teams. The team that we probably don't really want to play when we are actively seeking a win. Thomas Frank has got the better of us on numerous occasions. In fact, it's now been 4 years since we've actually beaten the Bees. Bit frustrating. It goes all the way back to that unsuccessful playoff campaign in the Championship. Now, before we get going, here's a bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. Find out more about them, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Now, of course, the Bees are travelling to the South Coast, and like I say, we are well overdue a win against them. Now, Brentford do have a large Danish contingent, and we are going to be speaking to somebody from the homeland of Mikkel Damsgaard and, of course, Thomas Frank, as well as many others in the Brentford team. So it is a pleasure to welcome on, all the way from Denmark, Sørine. Welcome to the show, Sørine. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. And thank you so much for joining us. So do tell us a little bit about your journey as a Brentford fan.
So I am from Denmark, so it has been quite difficult for me to really watch all the games. I started supporting Brentford back in 2014. I think that's when we went up to the Championship, and then I could watch a couple of games per month. And then when I started making my own money, I obviously spent it all on Brentford and going to Griffin Park and GTEC. So it's been a pretty wild journey since I became a supporter, because it's really only been going up. A bit like some ups and downs, but it's brilliant to watch us being in the Premier League, and now I'm able to watch all the games, which is pretty nice.
Excellent, good stuff. I bet that a lot more games are on TV than, of course, this game is being televised on Sky Sports, but do you get a lot more games on television in Denmark?
Oh yeah, we get them all. It's a bit expensive, but we get them all. We also get more Championship games now, so that's pretty cool. And I'm really happy that I'm able to watch this every week now. even if it's on television.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, of course, being from Denmark, Brentford have got quite a lot of Danish players and, of course, a Danish manager. Now, let's start off by talking about Thomas Frank, somebody who isn't particularly popular with AFC Bournemouth fans, but somebody who I've always rated as a manager. He did a lot of good work in the background, stepped up, and he's just taken Brentford from strength to strength. Last season looked like it did dip a little bit from the previous season where you finished ninth, but this season it looks back on track. And I don't personally think you're out of this European hunt yet.
Oh, you don't? I don't. It's difficult, I think, because the teams above us are really, really good. I think we want to finish 10th, and that's a season, and that's pretty good for us compared to last season. I think it's great to hear that from you, but I don't believe in it.
No, fair enough. Of course, it might actually, the European places might drop down to about 10th as well. The main reason being is if a team who do get into Europe via the Premier League win a cup, and say, for example, if Liverpool win the Carabao Cup this weekend, there is every possibility that the positions might filter down. So I still think you've got a chance, but do talk to us about Thomas Frank and what you make of him, because I think he's a very, very good manager. I think he's done some fantastic work at the football club. And what do you think his next steps are going to be with Brentford?
That's a good question, I think. Yeah, he's been really good with us. I think his plans are for us to get to Europe at some point. But the thing is, I don't know if he'll stay for that long, because I don't know if we'll get Europe. Probably not this season. I don't believe in it, but it could happen, or maybe next season. But it's really, really difficult. I don't think he's going to be in Brentford forever. And I could see him leaving for a bigger club. The only issue for him is that he changes formations a lot, which bigger clubs don't really like. And we saw that with Kompany, for example, when he didn't really play like good football in the Premier League, but he still got a big job because he stuck to his principles.
Yeah, most definitely. And the good thing with Thomas Frank, like you say, is he is very, very flexible, and he's got a lot of players who, a little bit like us, can play multiple positions. He can actually change it around with. He's got a starting 11, but can change it around with those players without making those substitutions and really panicking. But let's talk about, of course, Ivan Toney, who left. Sorry to bring it up for
It's
you,
okay.
Sørine, but Ivan Toney, who, of course, did leave earlier on in the season, went to Saudi Arabia. From my perspective, I think it was a silly move from him, but the players that have stepped into his place have really shone. And is he really that much of a miss?
I don't think so, but I also do think that Brentford is really good at continuing without star players. For example, when Watkins left, we got Toney. In my opinion, a better replacement for us. And Eriksson left, then Jensen jumped in, and he was really good, and he took his role. So I just think that we are managing fine, and I also think we will be fine. When we sell Brian in the summer, we probably will. I think Thomas Frank and the club, they just always find a way to make things work.
And Brian and Mbembe, and I think I say that right. I don't know if I do say that right.
And Bremo, I think that's the English way to say it.
Is it?
Yeah.
To be honest, I think I do apologise, Brian, if I do keep messing up your name. But also Johan Wissa, those two have been electric this season, scoring a combined between them, I believe, of about 28 goals. Are you worried about Johan leaving the club as well?
I am more worried about him leaving the club, not just because of how good he is
Mhm.
on the pitch, but also really how he is handling the younger players and how he's like talking with them and making them feel better about not getting enough playtime. I think that's really, really important to us, and I could see him become a captain at some point if he stays, just because of how good he is with the other players.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And he's always a danger man. To be honest, Brian and Johan always seem to score against us. And touch wood, it's not going to happen this weekend, but hey, it probably will do, to
I
be
hope
fair.
so.
But it wouldn't happen without another fellow Dane in the centre of midfield.
Mhm.
And you know where I'm going with this. Mikkel Damsgaard has been electric. He has played part in all Premier League games this season. And how integral is he to Thomas Frank's plans, and how important is it that you've got him tied down to a long-term contract?
Oh, I gotta be honest, I was so surprised in a good way when I saw that he got a contract extension. I was
Hmm.
so happy to see that because this season he's been amazing. I think we saw some glimpses of it last season, but this season he's just been consistently good, like every game almost. He creates a lot, and I do think his overview is fantastic. And he might not score a lot of goals, but I think he's just really good and like clever with the ball. He thinks before he like passes a ball, um, and that's amazing. I think I am not worried about him leaving at the moment. I think he's really important for us this season, and hopefully he will continue to perform the way he does right now.
And he's very, very creative as well, isn't he? He just makes things happen. And the player that I'd probably compare him to in the Bournemouth side is Justin Kluivert.
Yeah.
He can ping the ball around. With regards to his partner in the midfield, Janelt, what have you made of him this season?
To be honest, I am a bit disappointed in him because
Mhm.
he's just normally a player you can count on. He's never like completely amazing, but not really bad either. I think it's been different this season. Um, I think it's such a shame, but then again, I think he works hard every game. Of course, not at the same level as Damsgaard, of course not, but I think he's still like an important player. Also, like in the dressing room, for example, I think he's good for us, but I'd prefer a new midfielder, to be honest.
Hmm. No, I can understand where you're coming from. And one of the midfielders that was probably thought that he would, come in and really, really challenge, but he's made more substitute appearances than he has starts, was Fabio Carvalho, of course, formerly of Liverpool. What have you made when he's come off the bench?
Well, it's kind of difficult. I think sometimes he makes a good impact.
Hmm.
I think he was supposed to really have Damsgaard's role, but I do think that Damsgaard has just been like too good. Like nobody expected him to be this good. Um, and also he's a bit younger. I think he knows that his time will come, but he needs to wait. Um, and and he's also been like injured a couple of times. He's injured right now for 8 weeks. I hope I'll see more of him. Maybe like further down the pitch, so he doesn't have to take Damsgaard's role because he's too important.
Dare I say this, looking at, and knowing Brentford this season at home, of course, you beat us 3-2 back in November. A very, very solid performance, to be honest, from both teams, really, that game. It was a really, really entertaining match. Yeah, gutted myself, but hey, I do honestly think, Brentford played very, very well that game. But this is possibly the worst time to play Brentford at our place. And the reason being is because you were prolific at home earlier on in the season. And then more recently, everything's kind of flipped. And where you couldn't win away, you've started picking up results. And am I right in thinking, I'm just having a quick look, you're unbeaten away from home since the middle of December?
That sounds about right, yeah. I do
Mm.
think so, yeah. But I do think it's also important to remember which teams we're playing. And I'm not taking anything away from the players because some of the victories they've been really good. But and it's the same like when we were doing bad away. We also played Big Six teams a lot. So I think that's really important to remember also. And I am a bit nervous about Saturday's game, to be honest. But hopefully we'll get a point of 3.
Well, Sørine, I've got to say this. Why? Why are you worried? Because you are effectively what we would call our bogey side. I don't know what we need to do to actually get a win against yourselves. And if I'm right in thinking, from memory, the last win was during those playoff games back during the COVID period. What makes you more worried about Bournemouth now than you have been since?
Yeah, I know it sounds insane. It's almost 4 years since you've beaten us, but I do think Bournemouth this season you've been so good. It's a different Bournemouth I'm seeing right now, and also like we could have lost to you in the game like we played at home. I think hopefully we'll beat you this time, but I am just not sure of it just because it's Brentford and you've been into some like maybe draws and losses like the past few game weeks, and that means we will end the bad run for you and you'll get a win. That's what we do, really.
Well, I hope so. I hope so because it's kind of overdue, isn't it? But
Yeah.
like you say, we have lost, 2 and drawn 1 of the last 3. Haven't played badly in any of the games. To be honest, against Spurs, it was 2 keeper mistakes. I want to just quickly touch upon the goalkeeper situation at Brentford because, of course, David Raya was number 1 for such a long period of time. Now Flecken is in between the sticks. Do you feel that he's fitted into that role quite comfortably, and do you feel that he is an adequate or even a better replacement for Raya?
Um, I'm not sure he's a better replacement.
Mhm.
He's been a good shot stopper this season, which I was pretty surprised with because last season he didn't save anything. And Raya is just I can't explain it. Maybe it's just like the memories we have with him, but
Mhm.
Flecken has been good. He has, and I think he's really good with his feet as well. Um, but with Raya, I was just more confident. But I would say Flecken has really stepped up, and credit to him, he's been really good this season, especially the past few months. But we'll see because I'm not really sure about him. But I am a Flecken supporter.
I also just want to touch upon one game before we go on to how you might be able to stop Bournemouth this weekend, considering, and let's take it as if we were still at our top level, but let's talk quickly about that Plymouth defeat in the FA Cup, which was a massive shock. And I am pretty sure, would are Brentford fans disappointed considering how that competition has opened up this season?
I mean, yeah, I think we're just always disappointed when we're playing in the cup, because it's like we're not really taking it seriously. Um, we've lost a lot of games to lower league teams or to championship teams, and I just think it's a bit annoying at this point. And also we played against Sheffield Wednesday in the Carabao Cup, and I think, it went to penalties, and I think that's kind of annoying, to be honest, because we could have a good run, but we're just not getting there. And it's like this almost every season.
Well, it did. It was a shock, and I'm pretty sure that Thomas Frank is not particularly happy, considering how it has opened up. We've got a great chance if we get past Manchester City. We're even dreaming that we could potentially do something that we've never done in our history and actually win some major silverware. But how do you stop Bournemouth, considering our high press? I'm just looking at the fixture against Aston Villa, and you played a 4-5-1. Of course, Nørgaard and Janelt just in a bit more defensive role, Damsgaard a bit more advanced, and then Brian and Sharda on either wing. But how do you stop Bournemouth? Because we're going to play that high press, we're going to play that high intensity game. What do you think Thomas Frank is going to come up with?
Oh, that's a good question. A bit hard to really answer. We have our centre back Vandenberg back, which is a good thing. I don't know if he's going to be on the bench though. I think it's really hard to really answer because our defense really hasn't been good this season. I think we need a lot of creativity to also to get the ball, to pass it away to your third. But I think it's going to be a really defensive game from us. I think we do that a lot these days. But I hope we'll see also a more offensive side. But I think like Kirkis, for example, he's just impossible. I think he's such a great player, not only defensively but also offensively. I think he's brilliant. Like if he gets the ball in our third, we're doomed. Like he's so good.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do have an impressive left back, and it's interesting actually you say about the defence and just being a bit frail. But one man that I've always rated, and I think he would be a solid addition to this season's squad if he wasn't injured, is Rico Henry. Really, really rate Rico Henry. Don't get me wrong. I keep saying that Kirkes is the best left back in the league, but Rico Henry is solid, and he knows his position, reads the game well. I believe he is on the verge of coming back, though, isn't he?
They always say that, and then he plays one game and gets injured again. I hope he comes back for good this time, though. I really do.
Would you be worried if you saw him on the pitch against Bournemouth this weekend, considering what the intensity that we are going to play at?
Yeah, because I'm worried about his pace after an injury. I do think that it would be great to see him, but that should be off the bench. I am not sure we'll see him though. I think he'll need extra time because the last time he came back too early and he got injured again, and I think it's sad because he's been really injury prone since we got him. Then he had a couple of seasons without long injuries, but I am a bit worried, to be honest with you.
If I'm right in thinking, that was the game against Manchester City, wasn't it, where you drew 2-2 the last time he was in the squad?
Yeah, I do think so.
Yeah.
As far as I remember.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, of course, Sørine, we do this with all our special guests, and we've got to predict this game. How do you think that this is going to go?
Okay, I am just not too confident about a win to Brentford. I am going to go with 2-2, and we're going to get a Brian goal and a Damsgaard assist.
Excellent. Well, it's been overdue. I'm going to go with a Cherries win. We have been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. We could potentially be waiting even longer after this weekend. But hey, I'm just going to say it. I reckon it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, and it's going to be a really, really difficult game. No doubt Brian or Wissa is going to score. One of them is going to grab a goal. You know, he's written in the stars. But I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, and I'm going to go for Justin Kluivert and Semenyo. But yeah, I'm hoping more than expecting, to be honest with that. And lastly, on Thomas Frank, you know, he wants to keep this going. Do you think he's got a dislike of AFC Bournemouth himself, or do you think
he likes beating you, that for sure? But I don't know if he, like hates you or doesn't like you. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I don't think so.
No, that's fair enough. To be honest, like I say, such a good manager. And actually, when I listen to him, a really nice guy, but I haven't got any problems with him. But, you know, I know a lot of Bournemouth fans have done. But hey ho, that is what it is. Sørine, it has been absolutely lovely to talk to you. Keep up the great work. No doubt we'll speak very, very soon. And thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me join.
Not a problem at all. My pleasure. And thank you for joining us on this show. Hit the like, subscribe, the bell button below. It helps this channel to grow. Now, if you are a Brentford fan, you like your indie music, of course you do. You like all sorts of music. We have got some special guests on here for you. Go down into that interviews tab and you'll find an interview with Adam Devlin from the Blue Tones. But not only that, we don't just give you that. We have also got an interview with Hard Five frontman Rich Archer. And if you don't like music, and why ever not, there is lots more interviews you can watch. You can watch Richie Neville, you can watch Gaz Whelan from the Happy Mondays, Ocean Colour Scene, of course, Damon Minchella. You can watch loads and loads and loads of stuff in there, in that interview tab. But if you don't like your music, then you might like a guy called Lloyd Owusu, a bit of a legend at Griffin Park as it was. So do go check out that exclusive interview with Lloyd that we did earlier on in the season. Like I say, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button, do all that jazz. Thank you for joining us. We shall see you in the next one.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.